There is one thing most practitioners do after their inner work that quietly undoes everything. Not doubt, not fear, not even checking for signs. Something far more subtle than all of those. They help, they finish the session, they feel the wish fulfilled, they sleep in the state, and then they wake up and they begin to help. They arrange circumstances, they monitor conversations, they position themselves carefully, they take deliberate actions designed to move the outer world in the direction of the desire. And in doing so, they confess something they never intended to confess. That imagination alone was not enough, that the inner act required assistance, that they do not truly trust the law they claim to practice. I want to tell you something tonight that goes against everything the outer world has taught you about how things get done. Do nothing after this, not as passivity, not as laziness, as the most advanced form of faith available to a human being. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you is the difference between a practitioner who struggles for years and one who watches reality rearrange itself with quiet astonishment. Most people believe that after the inner work, action is required. That imagination plants the seed, but effort grows the tree. And I want to be very careful here, because this misunderstanding has caused more confusion in this teaching than almost anything else. I'm not telling you that action has no place in your life. I'm telling you something far more precise. Inspired action, the action that arises naturally from the new state, is different in every way from anxious action. Anxious action comes from doubt. It is the action of someone who planted a seed and cannot stop digging it up to check whether it is growing. Inspired action comes from certainty. It is the action of someone who planted a seed, walked away, and simply lives their life until one day, naturally and without strain, they find themselves doing the exact thing the fulfilled state required. Do you feel the difference between those two? One is effort masquerading as faith, the other is faith expressed as ease. I said this in my lectures, and I will say it again tonight. Do not be anxious or concerned as to results. Results will follow just as surely as day follows night, not if you help them, not if you arrange the circumstances correctly. Simply, results will follow, without your assistance, without your management, without your careful arrangement of the outer world. But here is what most people do not understand about why helping undermines the work. The reason most practitioners cannot stop helping is not weakness, it is identity. The person who has been wanting something for months or years has built an entire identity around the wanting. They know how to want, they know how to try, they know how to take careful steps toward the thing, and the moment they plant the inner assumption and try to simply live from it, the old identity reasserts itself, because the old identity does not know how to rest. It only knows how to pursue. I wrote this in Feeling is the Secret, and I want you to hear it tonight as though for the first time. As the end is accepted, you become totally indifferent as to possible failure. For acceptance of the end wills the means to that end, not your effort, not your careful action. The acceptance itself, the inner assumption, fully received, contains within it everything required for its own fulfillment, including the bridge of incidents, including the people who will play their parts, including the actions that will be naturally and effortlessly taken. All of it is already contained in the assumption. Your job is not to add to it. Your job is not to subtract from it by doubting it. And every action taken from anxiety, every conversation carefully managed, every circumstance deliberately arranged, is a subtraction. It says, I do not trust the assumption to fulfill itself, and the subconscious, that faithful mirror, reflects that distrust back as more delay, more obstacle, more evidence that your help was necessary. But here is something even more important about what happens when you truly stop. Let me give you an image that I have returned to many times in my own understanding of this. Think of a river. It knows where it is going. It has always known. But imagine someone standing in it, redirecting it, controlling its flow, anxiously managing where it goes. That person believes they are helping. The river simply waits. The moment they step aside, it moves. That is what you are doing when you help your manifestation. You are standing in the river. I have said this in many different ways over many years of teaching. There is no stopping the man who can think from the end. Nothing can stop him. He creates the means and grows his way out of limitation. The man who thinks from the end does not stop to arrange the means. He trusts that thinking from the end is sufficient, and it is, because the assumption, once fully received by the subconscious, sets in motion a series of events, a bridge of incidents, that no conscious mind could have designed or predicted. The bridge appears, step by step, not because you built it, because you planted the assumption and then stepped aside. And what I have witnessed in my own life, and in thousands of people who came to my lectures, is that the bridge always appears, always, the moment the practitioner truly stops standing in the river. And here is the story that showed me this more clearly than anything else. A woman came to one of my lectures carrying a specific desire she had held for almost 2 years. She had practiced faithfully. She had revised. She had used the state akin to sleep. She had constructed the scene with care and sincerity. And she had also, without quite realizing it, spent 2 years helping. Every conversation with the relevant person was carefully managed. Every opportunity was noticed and positioned. Every step she took was a deliberate move in the direction of the desire. And nothing had moved. After hearing me speak about the nature of the inner act, she made a decision that she described to me as the most difficult thing she had ever done in this practice. She stopped, not the inner work, the helping. She stopped monitoring the conversations. She stopped positioning herself strategically. She stopped taking the careful, deliberate actions she had convinced herself were necessary. She simply lived from the assumption, in the ordinary hours of her day, without checking, without managing, without helping. 3 weeks passed, and then, through a series of events so unlikely and so perfectly arranged that she could not have designed them, the desire fulfilled itself, not through any path she had anticipated, through a bridge of incidents she had never considered. People played parts they did not know they were playing. Circumstances arranged themselves without her involvement. And when it was done, she came to me and said something I want you to hear tonight. She said, "It happened the moment I realized my help was the obstacle." That is the teaching, not that action is wrong. That anxious action, action born of distrust, is the very thing blocking the bridge from forming. Step aside and watch what the assumption can do without you. I want to be practical with you about what doing nothing actually means, because it is not what most people think. Most people stop prematurely before the inner act is complete. They plant a seed halfway and then wait passively, wondering why it does not grow. That is not what I am teaching. Doing nothing only follows a completed inner act, after you have entered the state, after you have felt the wish fulfilled, after you have slept in the assumption, after you have woken with the settled, unremarkable certainty of someone for whom it is already done. That completeness is the condition. Without it, doing nothing is simply avoidance. Now, when an action arises naturally within you, when you feel moved to do something without strain, without anxiety, without it feeling like helping, take it. That is the bridge of incidents forming. That is the assumption expressing itself through you. Do not resist it. But when an action arises from anxiety, when you catch yourself arranging, monitoring, managing, stop. Ask yourself honestly, am I taking this action because it feels natural and right? Or am I taking it because I do not trust the assumption to fulfill itself without my help? The answer will always be honest if you are willing to hear it. And the third instruction, fill the space with living. The greatest error after planting an assumption is to spend the hours of the day in a state of waiting. I want you to hear this clearly. Waiting is not doing nothing. Waiting is actively rehearsing absence. Doing nothing means live fully, naturally. without the desire occupying the space it used to take. When the desire no longer dominates your attention in the ordinary hours, not because you suppressed it, but because you are genuinely living from the assumption that it is done, that is when the bridge appears. Tonight, before you sleep, do the inner work completely, fully, without holding back. Enter the state. Feel the wish fulfilled. Sleep in the assumption. And tomorrow, do nothing. Not nothing as passivity, nothing as trust. Walk through your day as the person for whom it is already done, not managing the outer world, not helping the assumption fulfill itself, simply living from it. And when you catch yourself helping, and you will, stop. Return to the assumption. I have said this many ways over many years, and tonight I want to say it simply. The assumption does not need your help. It needs your trust. And trust, real trust, not performed trust, looks like this. You plant the seed, you walk away, you live your life, and one day, through a bridge you never could have designed, through people playing parts they never knew they were playing, the harvest arrives. Do nothing after this, and watch reality rearrange itself.